Welcome to our case webinar series where we'll dive further into one of our case studies. My name is Mike Peterson. I'm the partner manager at Umbraco and responsible for our UK market. In this webinar, we'll, together with our gold partner CTI Digital and the customer Bruntwood Works, we will look at their latest project together. In the next 30 minutes, we'll go through the case where we'll tell you more about how they used Umbraco to create a tailored solution, making their site into a marketing power tool. We will hear what were the thoughts before the project started and what were the challenges and the key elements of the solution. And we'll finalize it with what was the learnings and wins from the project. We hope to inspire others. And with me today to present, I've invited Amy Radcliffe from CTI and James McCracken from Bruntwood Works. Amy, are you there?
Yes, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Could you introduce yourself and start?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Amy. I'm one of the senior account directors here at CTI, and I look after the Bruntwood account. So James and I have been working together for a couple of years now on the roadmap for Bruntwood Works, mapping out the digital activities and how they fit into the overarching Bruntwood Group strategy.
And should I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I'm James McCracken. I'm head of marketing for Bruntwood Works, and I look after the digital and workspace side of the business. I've been, as I say, working with Amy for the last sort of 12 months on various websites for us.
Cool. Mike, are you happy for us to dive straight in?
Yes, please, just go ahead, dive in.
Okay, so we've introduced ourselves, just a little picky of us all there on screen for everybody. So the agenda for the webinar today, James and I are just going to do a brief introduction of our respective businesses. And then, as Mike said, we'll talk about the challenge, some key elements in the solution, wins, learnings, and what comes next for Bruntwood. So I'll start off with CTI first. Who are we? So CTI, just to give a bit of background of who we are and what we do, we're a full service digital agency. There's around 200 of us now across the CTI group. So we're independently owned, and all of our shareholders are actively involved in day-to-day operations. They're faces and bodies within the office, which is really nice. There are a number of agencies that make up the CTI brand, which I'll just have on the next slide so that you can see. So as I said, there's a number of agency brands who make up the CTI group, but essentially we all work collaboratively across our clients as one big agency in order to deliver the best of all of our individual specialisms and strengths. So I won't read through each and every single one, but myself, I'm from CTI Digital, and some of the other brands that you'll see on there are brands that we've developed kind of naturally and known in-house, so Supercharge being one of them. And then some of the other agency brands that you can see on there are acquisitions that we have gone through over recent years in order to kind of bolster our strength in various different areas of the business. And then just to follow on from that, so here are some of the areas that we specialise in across the CTI group. Again, I won't read out all of them at much time, and we need to get into the nitty-gritty of the projects. But as you can see, we offer a really wide range of expertise across all aspects of digital, kind of starting off with strategy all the way through to brand development, and then web development, launch, execution, and then the ongoing digital services, digital marketing services that we can offer, and also ongoing hosting and maintenance and those kind of things as well. So that's just a little brief snapshot of CTI. So now I'll pass over to James so he can talk you through Bruntwood Works.
Thanks, Amy. Trying to take a gap where my dog doesn't bark, so apologies for that. I'm very excited today. So Bruntwood Works, who are we? Well, we are a large office and retail provider based in the UK. So we have office and spaces in Manchester, regional Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, and Liverpool. We've been around for around 42 years, so we're a well-established business, and unlike maybe some of our competitors, we own all of our buildings. So we take really tired places and completely reinvigorate them into beautiful places for people to work, and for retail as well. So that's a little bit of a snapshot on us. And then on the next slide, Amy, this just gives you a bit of a broader view of kind of the companies that we work with and who are based in our places, just to give you an idea of kind of the depth and the clientele that we work with. And then on the next slide, I've tried to keep this brief and colourful. On the next slide, these are, so when I say workspace provider, that's what you may envisage us to be, a bit like WeWork, if you like, but we also work in the retail sector as well. And these may not mean a lot to a lot of people outside of Manchester, but we own shopping centres, so Stretford, Stamford Quarter, Hatch, which is very much a placemaking kind of brand, and then Afflex, which is a very legacy-led brand in Manchester where a lot of students go, and it's been there for a very, very long time. So we're in those kind of spaces as well. And the importance of highlighting these at this point is that's very much kind of where we came to CTI with these particular projects as well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of Bruntwood Works.
Well, thanks, James. So diving into the challenge of the project itself. So just listed out the kind of key challenges that we faced, not just as an individual CTI, but together as a group with also James and the Bruntwood guys. So the first one, and as often can be the case, is fast turnaround times. So it's not necessarily the case with all of the place brand websites, but particularly with the consultation sites that we've worked on. It can sometimes be fairly short notice when a planning application is actually ready to go through for public consultation. And so in these scenarios, Bruntwood need to be able to move really quickly to ensure the public view is taken into account and as much kind of public thought is gathered so that they can then feed that into the proposals as they continue to develop. Another challenge, and on to the next one, is around the CMS. So CMS needed to be really intuitive and also consistent across each of the sites to allow different members of the team at Bruntwood to easily add content and without the need of coming to CTI every single time they needed to make a change. Enhanced flexibility and enhanced content modules. So the Bruntwood Group website doesn't really offer the flexibility within its page layouts or the content modules that Works and the brand places need. And following on from that, nor does it really offer the individual aesthetic of each brand place. So from a user journey perspective, each place brand is a brand in its own right. And so really that needs to be housed outside of the main group website, as from a user journey perspective, it just does not make sense for them to sit within there. It would be confusing to go to Bruntwood Group to then navigate your way down into the individual place brand website.
Yeah, just to add to that, Amy, I mean, obviously, as I showed on that previous slide, Patch and Afflex are very student-led. So to direct a student into an office business website would make no sense at all. So they had to have their own brand and their own strengths, and hence why they needed their own sites.
Mm-hmm. And then from a project consideration, so from a CTI side, restricted timeframes and budget was something that we obviously needed to consider internally, how we would manage that through. I've popped on their small project team at Bruntwood Works. So just to explain that, although the marketing team at Bruntwood isn't small, each marketing manager looks after their own website. So Hatch, Afflex, etc. And so these projects are, of course, in addition to essentially what is the rest of the day job. Bruntwood currently don't have the resource in-house to manage all of the sites centrally, which is another reason that the sites sit within the individual marketing managers. So it was just a consideration that we would be drawing on someone's time who is also looking at the rest of the marketing mix for those individual places. Yeah. And then finally, always a consideration, just making sure that we're always aligning with the wider Bruntwood Group strategy with everything we're doing, not only from Works collectively, but also the individual places as well. So I'll kick off into key elements within the solution itself. So we've talked around the design aesthetic, and as James and I both mentioned, the place brands all have their own individual brand and design. So we worked really, really closely with Bruntwood's in-house designer, Richard, to create a design system for each site to ensure that the design implementation was captured and reflected really beautifully online. There's so much effort that goes into each brand's design, so we wanted to make sure that we portrayed that across the group. And despite using Umbraco Cloud sites for the suite of sites. Each site feels, different and individual, and the brand really does shine through. So that was something that we worked really hard to try and achieve. And then the second point that we've got on this slide is integration with Podo. So sites are obviously a really strong marketing tool for Bruntwood. So integration with the CRM was absolutely essential from both the public consultation sites and also the place brand site perspective. So data is captured via Umbraco Forms and it's pushed through to the CRM. So we made good use of the Umbraco Forms module available within Umbraco Cloud there. So it sounds an obvious one to lots of people, but an easy to use CMS. The team have access to a really, really wide range of content components, which gives them the flexibility that they've just never had before, so that they can create a whole host of different page layouts from, showcasing new places to public consultation pages, which might be quite dry and asking quite specific questions. And then even brand places for the brands that are located within the Bruntwood workplaces, they all now have the ability to create their own beautiful looking pages across the raft of components that are available. And most importantly, it's all without the need of coming to CTI for additional resource. I mean, as much as we love working with James, we understand that there are lots of things that him and his team want to be able to do themselves and it to their own timeframes. So I think that's really given the team the flexibility that they need within this.
I was going to say, Amy, I think, and I don't know if he's on listening on the other end of the call at the moment, but shout out to one of my colleagues, Danny Green, who basically didn't know anything about websites, started using Umbraco, and now he's basically going to get himself a job at CTI, isn't he, Amy, with some of the things he's discovered what he can do in there and the flexibility. So, I was going to just add to that. I think a lot of the team are novices when it comes to this, so that's why we wanted a solution that was very easy for them, to Amy's point, and this is definitely delivered that for our team, really. Not web experts, but they can go in there and do what they need on the sites, which has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to feed into that, Danny, I'll touch on it in a couple of slides later, but the ease of the CMS and some of the things that Danny's done is incredible, with you guys kind of taking it on yourselves and almost doing train the trainer sessions without even needing to come to us for that. So yeah, it's a testament really to how easy the CMS genuinely is to use. A really key thing to highlight as well is the execution speed and how quickly we were able to launch the sites, largely due to the wealth of pre-built widgets and components available from within Umbraco. So we've been able to spin these sites up and roll them out in a really timely manner, which has been great to kind of meet those tight timelines we were both talking about earlier. And another plus that we are experiencing here, that with the more sites that we build, the more we're able to take advantage of various features within Umbraco Cloud, like baselines. So we're not having to restart projects from scratch every time. We've got components built. We've got even specific components that we've tweaked, and we can keep rolling those out with the new site. So that's a great feature that we're making lots of use of on our side. And then I think lastly onto the site performance. So we configured the sites to host 3D tours of the place brands, which are really cool interactive walkthroughs of all the different buildings, so you can see the features and various bits and pieces and services that are available within the spaces. So we've been able to do that without impacting on the site performance at all, which has just been such a winner throughout lockdown and COVID. Don't want to mention the C word particularly today, but when customers haven't been able to physically visit the places, it's given them a almost like they are there in person view of what the space looks like and what facilities are available there. So that's been really great for us to be able to get those up and launched on the sites as well. So just moving on to some of the wins from the project. So there's been quite a few, which is nice to say. I think fair to say one of the biggest wins of the overall project, so this is across kind of all of the place brand websites, is how easily it's been for the team to pick up using the CMS. It is really intuitive and it's consistent across each place brand site. It's easy to use with the team at Bruntwood, and as I just kind of alluded to, the carrying out train the trainer sessions amongst themselves to edit content easily as new place sites are created. And because of that consistency, and with the marketing team set up at Bruntwood, it does mean that other marketing managers can jump onto one of a site that's not necessarily one they look after, but they know the system, they know how to work it, and they can make edits and changes in absence of other team members, which has been, I think, really beneficial for the team internally. We've got a future-proof solution with the Umbraco Cloud sites. They can certainly be developed as requirements change and additions or enhancements are needed. We're already talking around adding in new pages as and when the sites go from public consultation through to the site actually being approved and it becoming a thing. We obviously then need to expand the site with all of the exciting information of the stuff that's going on at that particular site. So the brands that are going to be there, we can add in the news, the blog, and all that kind of extra stuff. So they're definitely scalable and yeah, certainly future-proof. And then finally on this slide, from an SEO perspective, so some of the content can be similar across the sites. So we worked really closely with the marketing team to ensure the sites wouldn't negatively impact on SEO through duplication of content, which again is proving to be a success with the sites continue to rank well, and we're not having any issues with duplication. So that's all been managed and handled really well as well. Just on to the next slide of more wins. So budget's always a key consideration and did play a large part in the business case that James put forward at group level when we started talking about commissioning the individual place brand sites. So I think the main win here is the costs at the sites, are the cost efficient. They provide really excellent value without compromising on the quality at all of the solution or its future scalability. And then the next one, the suite of sites, is just a general win in that the Bruntwood Works individual place brands are now beautifully showcased on an individual level with lots of flexibility for the content editors, which is, you know, the main goal of what we were striving to achieve here. How can we break away a little bit from the group website, and how can we showcase these sites without ramping up the cost of having a lot of individual heavy custom coded websites? So the cloud solution is kind of the perfect offering really for us to be able to achieve this. And then lastly, a win from CTI's perspective. So we've got a really happy client with James, and we've got an ever evolving suite of Umbraco Cloud sites. So I think just this year we've already started talking about another 3 that we need to add into the mix, which is great. And the future ambition, we've got an exciting future project in the pipeline to bring all of the sites together into one overarching Umbraco solution. So it's been adopted so much that that's now what we might be looking to go with towards the group website. Time will tell, but yeah, lots of exciting stuff in the pipeline, all stemming from the wins across the cloud sites. So onto some learnings, because there are always some with every project. So some of the learnings from the projects we've been able to apply to the later ones. So I guess that's the benefit really of having the suite of sites. Anything that we kind of learn, we've been able to adapt and roll out differently as we've moved forward. So as we've progressed through the suite of websites, the journey's got much easier, and we've avoided kind of pitfalls that we had to experience first time around. The first one that I've just popped on the slide there to talk around is evolving timelines. So I guess as is the nature with planning applications and physical spaces launching, particularly with some of the difficulties we've encountered during COVID and workforces not being out and about as much as they have been. So timings can change, which means Bruntwood and CTI have both needed to adapt, and usually pretty quickly. To get around this in the later projects, we've brought the third parties involved, so whether that's the councils or the brands involved, we've brought those guys in much earlier on, so we've had more of a heads up on potential changes to deadlines, then we can obviously factor that in from a resource perspective, so we're always managing to meet the overall deadline, whether it's shifting or not. Clear comms around launch dates. So this is another learning that we took pretty much from the first project that we went live with. Bruntwood's IT team can handle large portions of the go live process themselves. They handle all the domains and that kind of thing. However, obviously they still require input from CTI. So we need to be on hand so that we can ensure we're there for support, just a general guidance on timings of launch, during the week, in a morning, so we're there to kind of maximize any fallout that might happen. So we've been working together really closely with the IT team on the actual launches of the sites, which has proved a much smoother process in the later sites that we've launched. And then the other 2 things that we've learned are mainly focused around the design. So the first one is communicating really to the third-party agencies involved the impact that substantial design changes can sometimes cause, not only to Bruntwood and the budget side of things, but also to the delivery of the project. I think there was one where one of the third parties involved was keen to change the design. I think we got up to design number 3 before we managed to get final sign off, and obviously it just has the knock-on effect. So pulling those guys in earlier and really explaining the ramifications of making what they think might be a small change, but once the site's kind of built, it's obviously a much larger thing to deal with. And then the second one around design limitations. So again, we learned quite early on that Bruntwood they've got an incredible in-house designer, and we needed to work really, really closely with Richard to almost manage expectations of what was achievable within Umbraco Cloud, so that the designs that were being created from the get-go could be translated digitally across the websites, and almost we weren't going too far with the design that we then had to strip it back, as was the case on one of the sites. So going forward, we've worked a lot more collaboratively to ensure that what Richard and the in-house design team are working on is what can actually be portrayed on the end product.
I've got to say on that as well, Amy, we've never been disappointed with how the site's looked at the end of it. We probably just gone a bit too over the top at the very beginning. And not considered what was achievable. So even though I think it's a learning, it's helped us move forward, and we've not had that problem since, have we, Amy, really?
No, and I think it's also just working a bit more cleverly on what we can actually achieve. Like some of the nice parallaxes and the movement we've been able to include have almost replaced some of the design elements that perhaps we thought around first, and we've just worked on how we can translate those differently online. And yeah, the end results, I mean, the sites look great, so I think everyone's really pleased with the end product. And then I guess just on to kind of what next, and what's next in terms of looking to the future for the sites. So as I'm sure everybody is aware, Umbraco Cloud offers lots of things as part of the package, including automated updates and security fixes. There's the 99.9% hosting SLA for ultimate peace of mind there with the site. It's also kept up to date with the latest patch releases of Umbraco CMS, which again is just peace of mind that we're always working on the most up-to-date systems, along with the platform and CMS support as well. So James as the client perspective, and also CTI from a development perspective, we're always, really reassured that we've got Umbraco there to help support us in the ongoing maintenance and hosting across the sites as well. Another future aspiration, so from an internal perspective, on Bruntwood's side, the sites allow Bruntwood Works to further develop their digital strategy in line with the overarching group strategy. Now that we know these sites can be achieved outside of the main website, it opens up a whole new raft of things that James and I are hoping to push forward this year. So it's been really good in kind of helping Works really identify themselves and push themselves forward within the group. And then the final ultimate goal is for Bruntwood to ultimately manage the sites themselves in-house, along with the potential future Umbraco solution. So they'll absolutely be able to do that via their own Umbraco Cloud account. We can have as much access as we need in order to then future develop and work together. So it's just another great way that we can still work together. James can come to CTI for what he needs from a development perspective, but they also have a lot of that onus and management going on in-house with their IT team. So just provides a really collaborative platform, which is working really well for both parties on our side. And then that kind of brings us to a bit of a conclusion, really, whistle stop tour. If there's any questions, or Mike, if you had any comments or wanted to add anything, please do feel free.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you very much. It's always so inspiring to see how agencies are using and customers are using Umbraco, and just generally the journey and learnings from a project. It really, I mean, I don't need to do any sales job here, because you've kind of highlighted all the benefits of both Umbraco and Umbraco Cloud. But I would say that really shows the diversity in the ways that people can use. Now you've taken a kind of a WYSIWYG widget kind of approach, with really help your people with the novice knowledge they have of using a CMS. And I've seen the opposite, where it's very complex back offices which needs to do a lot of things. So it's so nice to see that Umbraco can cater for all needs, and it's diversity in the needs It's really nice. And then obviously you already mentioned all the benefits of using Umbraco Cloud with the baselines. It means that you can easily grow with your project. You can extend and customize if you need, but you can also easily execute using the baseline feature if you get more sites you want to get on without having to do all the groundwork again. Which means it becomes much more cost benefit or cost beneficial for you to do so. So I think it's overall a really nice project to see, and I always love to see these projects. And it gives the one thing is having a case study on paper, but it gives it more in depth when you actually hear it from the people using it, and gives it much more detail and content. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
That's all right. Thank you for having us. It's been really great to come on and kind of talk about the benefits, and James and I talk about them endlessly between ourselves. So it's nice to be able to kind of share that with the wider community.
Perfect.
Cool.
It doesn't seem like there's any questions. So I just want to wish you all a happy new year. Still able to say that, and then have a great weekend when you get to that.